Hey Cowboys Nation, today, we are diving into one of the most talked about topics for America's team. The latest mock drafts and how Dallas might approach their picks in the 2026 NFL Draft every year. Anticipation builds around who the Cowboys will target with their first-round selections. And this year is no different. With Daniel Jeremiah releasing his first mock draft teaser, there is plenty to unpack. And some of these choices are already stirring debate among fans. Jeremiah has always had a distinct approach to mock drafts, often making bold moves that spark conversation. Sometimes fans love his picks. Other times, there's a collective groan. But one thing is certain, he brings fresh perspective to the table, and today, we're going to break down how this could affect the Cowboys' strategy moving forward. Starting at the top, the first few picks follow a somewhat familiar pattern, with two offensive tackles going off the board early. Fernando Mendoza goes first, followed by Arl Reese to the Jets. These initial selections set the tone for the draft, prioritizing protecting the quarterback and solidifying the offensive line. After that, a defensive player and a quarterback get selected, keeping the balance between offense and defense. When it comes to the Cowboys, the draft so far has not been kind in terms of options. By the time their pick at 12 rolls around, most of the premier wide receivers are still available. But that could change quickly if other teams make unexpected moves. The real challenge for Dallas is the scarcity of top-tier receivers in the early rounds. Fans have been hoping for a chance to snag a player like Caleb Diaz, a wideout who has drawn attention for his athleticism and playmaking ability. The worry is that by pick 12, the Cowboys might have to settle for someone who isn't the immediate impact player that they hoped for. That being said, the offensive tackles are still being selected early, so there's a balance between upgrading the line and pursuing skill positions. It's a delicate dance, and the front office has to weigh their priorities carefully to avoid missing out on the key pieces they need for the upcoming season. When Jeremiah's mock draft reaches the Cowboys at 12, the pick is Colton Hood, a cornerback out of Tennessee. This selection might surprise some fans, as it shifts the focus toward defensive improvement rather than adding a top-flight offensive weapon. Hood is projected to be a plug-and-play starter, someone who can immediately contribute to a secondary that could use reinforcement. He has solid size, a strong collegiate record, and the versatility to fit into multiple defensive schemes. While he may not be the flashy pick fans were hoping for, his potential to stabilize the back end of the defense is notable. Jeremiah also teases the idea of an edge rusher going in the first round, which could align with the Cowboys' interest in enhancing their pass rush. But Hood's selection emphasizes the team's need to balance both sides of the ball. Looking further into the first round, there are plenty of intriguing names off the board. Players like Lemon, Vago, and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren are all selected in the mid to late first-round range, demonstrating the depth of talent in this draft class. Each of these players brings something unique to their respective teams, whether it's speed, size, or playmaking ability. For the Cowboys, the decisions become even trickier because they have multiple first-round picks and a variety of positions they could prioritize. Fans are left speculating about whether Dallas will aim for immediate starters, developmental players, or a mix of both. There's also the ever-present debate about whether trading down could yield a better overall haul, though timing and team needs can make this strategy difficult to execute successfully. One of the more polarizing picks in Jeremiah's mock draft is Kendrick Falk, an edge rusher out of Auburn, projected to go at 20. Falk is an interesting prospect because he possesses ideal size and athleticism, standing around 6'6" and weighing 185 pounds. Though some measurements might vary slightly, he has the physical traits that scouts love, but his production in the most recent season raised questions. He had fewer sacks and pressures compared to his previous year, which could make some question whether he is ready to make an immediate impact at the professional level. Despite that, his potential upside is significant, and if used correctly within a defensive scheme that maximizes his pass rushing abilities, he could become a disruptive force. The challenge for the Cowboys is figuring out how a player like Falk fits into a roster that already has several interior rushers. Adding him might create depth, but it could also create redundancy, depending on how the coaching staff intends to deploy the edge rushers. The recurring theme in this mock draft and in discussions among fans is that while talent is plentiful, positioning and timing are everything. The Cowboys could have benefited from a wide receiver being off the board early, pushing other teams to make different selections and opening up options for Dallas at pick 12 instead. The picks so far have primarily been tackles, a few defensive players, and a quarterback. The offensive skill positions remain untouched, which could be advantageous if the team believes they can still land a high-caliber receiver later, in the first round or in the second. However, fans are understandably cautious, wanting to see that the front office makes a move that addresses immediate needs, without sacrificing long-term potential. It's also important to note that evaluating prospects at this stage is fluid. Injuries, combined performance, and pre-draft workouts can all significantly shift a player's stock. Hood might rise or fall. Falk could impress or underwhelm in front of scouts, and other players who are currently projected for later rounds could suddenly become top targets. The unpredictability is part of the excitement, but it also requires the Cowboys management to remain adaptable and strategic. They need to balance the allure of high-upside developmental players with the necessity of filling critical roster holes. As we watch the first-round selections unfold, it becomes clear that the Cowboys' approach must be methodical. The team cannot afford to reach for a player simply because they are available, nor can they afford to overlook an immediate impact talent. Each pick has ramifications not only for the upcoming season but also for the long-term trajectory of the franchise. The decision to take Hood at 12 reflects an emphasis on a ready-to-play defender who can contribute immediately, while waiting on an edge rusher like Falk or a top receiver could be a calculated gamble that pays off if the team manages to find the right player at the right spot. Another element in this draft scenario is how the Cowboys might approach trades. With the first-round picks in their pocket, trading down could allow them to accumulate more selections or move up to target a player they covet. However, trading down requires other teams to be interested and willing to exchange picks, which is never guaranteed. It's a balancing act between risk and reward, and fans are keenly aware that a single misstep in the first round can have ripple effects throughout the season. The hope is that the team executes with precision, selecting players who complement the roster and address both immediate and long-term needs. Finally, looking at the bigger picture, the 2026 NFL Draft presents both opportunities and challenges for the Cowboys. The depth at defensive positions, the potential for wide receivers to emerge, and the presence of high-upside edge rushers all make this an intriguing year. The choices made in the first round will set the tone for the team's roster construction, and fans will be watching closely to see if the front office hits the right balance between proven talent and developmental potential. There's no doubt that the decisions at picks 12 and 20 will generate debate, excitement, and speculation as the team moves forward into the draft and beyond. As we move beyond the initial first-round selections, the conversation about the Cowboys and their draft strategy becomes even more nuanced. After taking Colton Hood at 12 and Kendrick Falk at 20, there's a growing sense among fans that while these picks address specific needs, they might not fully capture the high-impact potential that the team has been hoping for. The challenge for Dallas is figuring out how to balance immediate starters with developmental prospects, all while navigating the unpredictable flow of the draft. Hood offers a plug-and-play option in the secondary, and Falk brings upside to the pass rush, but neither selection provides that game-changing element that could dramatically alter the team's fortunes right away. This is where the mid to late first-round and early second-round picks become crucial. Looking at the depth of talent available after the Cowboys' first two picks, there are several players who could significantly impact the roster if handled correctly. Wide receivers, in particular, remain a major area of interest, while Caleb Diaz may have slipped past the top 11 picks. There are other prospects who have the skill set to contribute early, players like Carnell Tate, Akeem Mazador, and other athletic, versatile receivers still have the potential to step into meaningful roles, whether as a starting option or as a key rotational piece. The Cowboys' front office must weigh the risk of waiting for these players against the opportunity to add additional talent at positions that could immediately improve the team. It's a delicate balance, and the pressure to make the right choice is immense. The discussion around edge rushers like Falk is also critical at this stage. While he possesses the ideal physical traits and the potential for high upside, there are legitimate concerns about his production and fit within the Cowboys' current scheme. The team already has several interior rushers capable of generating pressure, but they may lack pure edge speed to consistently disrupt opposing quarterbacks. Deploying Falk effectively would require careful planning and a clear understanding of how he complements existing personnel. There is always the risk that he becomes a developmental player Who takes time to reach his ceiling? Which could be a luxury the Cowboys cannot afford if they want to remain competitive in a stacked division beyond the first round. Other defensive players who could make an immediate impact remain on the board. Middle linebackers, safeties, and cornerbacks offer opportunities to strengthen depth and provide rotational flexibility. Players like Dylan Thiemann or C.J. Allen have the ability to step into roles that address pressing needs on defense, particularly in coverage schemes and run support. The Cowboys' secondary has been an area of concern in recent seasons, so selecting a player who can contribute immediately while still possessing long-term upside could be a strategic move that balances both short-term competitiveness and long-term development. Another element that becomes increasingly important as the draft progresses is the notion of positional value and the domino effect of selections. When one team chooses a top wide receiver or offensive tackle, it can significantly shift the options available for other teams. For the Cowboys, timing is everything. If a wide receiver they covet remains on the board slightly longer than expected, they could gain an unexpected opportunity. Conversely, if other teams act aggressively, Dallas might be forced to pivot and select the best available player rather than the ideal fit. This uncertainty underscores the importance of flexibility and the need for the front office to be prepared for multiple scenarios as the draft unfolds. Additionally, the impact of pre-draft evaluations cannot be overstated. Combine results, pro day performances, and interviews with coaching staff can dramatically shift a player's perceived value. Colton Hood, for instance, might rise in stock if he impresses scouts with his agility and coverage skills, while Falk could either solidify his role as a first-round talent or see his stock fluctuate, depending on performance metrics. The pre-draft process is a dynamic landscape where information and perception evolve daily, making the decision-making process for the Cowboys as much about intelligence gathering as it is about evaluating raw talent. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Stephen A. Smith is already laughing, and if you're a football fan, you might want to brace yourself. The Cowboys, a franchise with a history of both brilliance and baffling moments, are reportedly cooking up something that could leave even the most die-hard supporters shaking their heads. Sources close to the organization suggest that the team is exploring moves that range from bold to downright eyebrow-raising, and Stephen A. is already predicting a flood of memes in the aftermath. The Cowboys' front office has remained tight-lipped, but insiders hint at discussions that could involve unconventional player rotations, surprise trades, or experimental strategies that have never been seen in the NFL. Analysts are buzzing, wondering whether the Cowboys are trying to reinvent themselves or just testing the limits of what fans will tolerate. The fact that Stephen A. is publicly laughing before any official announcements have been made only fuels speculation. Is this a masterstroke in the making, or the start of another chapter in the franchise's storied history of unpredictability? Social media has already begun to ignite. Fans are crafting their own narratives, imagining scenarios ranging from the absurd to the plausible. Will a rookie quarterback suddenly find himself in a starting role? Could the team unveil a formation that defies conventional football logic? The mere possibility of the Cowboys breaking the mold has set the sports world abuzz. Even rival teams are reportedly keeping an eye on the situation, half in disbelief and half in anticipation of what might unfold. Some insiders suggest that this could be a calculated move to shake up the league's perception of the Cowboys. Others worry it could backfire spectacularly, turning what is intended as a bold strategy into a viral moment of embarrassment. Either way, one thing seems certain: Stephen A. Smith will be watching closely, ready to react with his trademark commentary. And the memes will be inevitable. Fans are left to speculate, debate, and imagine, knowing that with the Cowboys, the line between genius and madness is often razor-thin. Whatever the truth behind the rumors, the anticipation alone is creating a storm of excitement. The Cowboys, it seems, are once again the team that keeps everyone guessing. And Stephen A.'s laughter might just be the soundtrack of a season that promises to be as unpredictable as it is entertaining. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.